Welcome everyone to our profound conversation and salam alaikum. As Erica mentioned, I am the Chief Compliance Officer and Impact Officer for MLPI. And today we're going to focus on some best practices for families to continue to thrive and live together in peace and harmony during this time of heightened stress and uncertainty. And our presenters possess a wealth of knowledge in clinical mental health, chaplaincy, and Islam. We have with us Chaplain Tahara Akmal, and she is clinical pastoral education manager at MedStar Washington Hospital Center in Washington, D.C. And she is an Association for Clinical Pastoral Education certified educator. We also have Dr. Farha Abassi, and she's an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Michigan State University and is a staff psychiatrist there. She established the Muslim Mental Health Conference, which I think was supposed to be taking place this week.
So I'm glad I still get a chance to get to the mic.
So we have her here with us, and she is also the managing editor for the Journal of Muslim Mental Health. And we are also pleased to have with us Imam Johari Abdul Malik, who served as Director of Outreach at the Dar al-Hijra Islamic Center, and he's the first Muslim chaplain at Howard University, and is the former head of the National Association for Muslim Chaplains in Higher Education. So, inshallah, today, this will be the first in a series of profound conversations. And I'd like to thank Tahara, Dr. Abassi, and Imam Johari for accepting our invitation to be a part of our inaugural profound conversations. We selected today's conversation with the understanding that the world is really experiencing some unprecedented challenges. It's facing us in all aspects of our life. It's impacting our economics, our community, our family dynamics, our mental and physical health and well-being. And everyone's right now is really struggling with kind of where we are and what tomorrow holds. I like to always start with the question of, think about, this is where we are, folks. And to say that another way, what's the state of affairs? So I'll ask Tahara first to give us your thoughts, Tahara, on where we are as a community, where we are in our family and personal mental wellness in light of this pandemic that the world is facing.
Thank you, Linda, and to your colleagues for inviting me to participate in this very important conversation for not just our community, but for the world community right now. One of the things I've been really thinking about in the field of chaplaincy and just in general is the impact of the consistent messages and the consistent reality that we're living in. The COVID-19 virus and the crisis has caused high anxiety, high stressors on families, on finances. People are concerned about maintaining their jobs. Children are home with families, and people are taking off work to be home with their children. So we have a lot of stressors on us, and stress is natural. I mean, if I see a dog running towards me and it's barking, I'm scared and I stress. That's natural. And in a few minutes, that my blood pressure and my heart rate will go back to normal. You know, the body's natural responses to maintain homeostasis. So I stress because I'm fearful. But anxiety, the anxieties that I think our community is experiencing and the world is experiencing right now is over something that we can't see, and is something we really have no control over. So I think that we are heightened in our fears. I think we are anxious, fearful, and answers are coming in ways where we have to figure out for ourselves in some way. You know, what are our families going to, what are our self-care practices? What's our spirituality? I was saying professionally as a chaplain and an educator of chaplains, a lot of our conversations right now are around patient care and also our own personal self-care practices.
So you know that also a result of the times that we're going through, everyone's working at home, and so the internet is being stressed. So, so bear with us as we work through some of these challenges in terms of some of the choppiness in our connections. Dr. Abassi, what have you been seeing in terms of in your practice, in terms of people's mental health and wellness resulting from maybe the fears of the coronavirus, being locked in and isolated?
So the new research that has just come out yesterday is calling this a pandemic of mental health. So, we are seeing this like it's just unbelievable, the level of anxiety, stress. I think human beings generally thrive on predictability. And that sense of predictability gives us a sense of control, which kind of gives us a sense of safety, security. And whenever that sense of predictability is threatened, we feel out of control. And that is where our fears and anxiety and this behavior comes out. And you wonder, like, when your president, who even when he acknowledges that the country is going through a mental health crisis, then you wonder, like, something is happening, right? So I think it is an extraordinary time of turbulence, predictability, fear, anxiety. And what we usually see is when a human being and a person, average person, is going through this, either you become either you turn towards your faith or you start questioning your faith. So I would really like to bring the Imam in this conversation and say, it is, I see both ends. I'm seeing both sides of it. People turning to faith, religion for comfort and resiliency, and questioning God, why is this happening to us right now? Because all of us are at different points in our lives. So even if in a household, you could have somebody right now struggling with health issues. You could have a husband or wife unemployed. You could have a kid who's very young and doesn't know when he's going to go back to school, or a kid who was applying to professional colleges and don't know now what's going to happen, or is in a high-level competitive field where suddenly the predictability of what's going to happen in 10 days is taken away from him. Just like you said, we were all supposed to be at Muslim Mental Health Conference, and now we are sitting here doing this. So that's all the complete change in our expectations, predictability in life that has come under question. So definitely all of us are feeling that stress. But the idea is, how are we gonna cope with it? It's not an acute situation anymore. It is getting more chronic. So it's no more like a sprint or a race. It's like, how do you prepare for this marathon? This long stretch of being exposed to this.
So Imam Johari, I think a question was thrown to you.
Oh, no.
By Dr. Abassi, in terms of where are you seeing people? Are they turning to their faith, or is this where they're actually questioning their faith?
First thing, I just want to thank you all for putting this together. And we can't have enough forums to have this type of conversation. And so Muslim Life Planning really has helped. I know that last night there was Muslim Wellness Foundation had a webinar, brought in some experts to talk about what's going on and ways that people can cope. I know later on today or tomorrow, there are many opportunities. And I think the more people have the opportunity like this to gather and exchange, I think people's hearts will find a greater degree of tranquility. Last night on the webinar, they took a poll during the webinar talking about COVID-19. And although there were significant levels of stress, anxiety, and so on reported, but almost 60% of the people said they felt hopeful. I recognize that, you know, if you have a religiously based webinar, you're probably likely to get more religiously grounded people. So it's not surprising that that group would be majority in the hopeful category. But, you know, it's interesting from the Islamic perspective. There are now new challenges, and that is that I do a lot of interfaith work, as Tahara and I have shared in the interfaith space. That if you're in the Jewish tradition, it's okay to be angry with God. In the Islamic tradition, it is considered to be unacceptable to be angry with God, and therefore it places people in the Muslim context who are asking the big giant question, why? Why is this happening? How can Allah allow this to happen? And I'm not happy with Allah's decision right now. And so this is, I mean, this becomes a real challenge for people. But for most faith leaders, whatever your tradition is, the Quran tells us, do you think that you will say that you believe and not be tested? That belief is not about just the good times. Belief is also embracing the bad times. If you're married, marriage is not about we're lovey-dovey. Sometimes you hit a rough patch. And if you're really committed to that union and that relationship, then you find new ways of working through it. As a faith leader, I have to say that I believe sincerely everything comes from God. God is in control. Allah is in control. We don't know, but Allah knows. The reality is that we actually live like this every single day. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know when you leave your house, whether you're going to come back at the end of the day. But we've been so accustomed to having this sense of okayness. And I think a lot of it for people who live in Western societies or in safe environments. If you live in the mountains in Afghanistan, when you leave to go to the market, there's no guarantee you're coming back home. Or you live in Darfur in Sudan, no guarantee if you're gathering firewood. We have been living in this kind of antiseptic bubble where if we get a headache, we take a pill. If we have something, we can, you know, we have diarrhea, we take a pill. And a lot of places in the world, people die from that. And so now we're really experiencing on many levels the kind of experience that many, many people around the world experience every day. And we're all in the same boat. So I believe that there's a great opportunity for us, even in our suffering, to get closer to this reality that what God wants us is to stay together and be together and know that God is in control.
And I would like to add on it. I definitely, and we as practicing Muslims believe that after every hardship there is ease. But how do you think people?
Actually, Doc, I have a modification.
Okay.
With every difficulty, it is accompanied by ease.
Okay.
It is not. They come together.
Come together.
Right. If I'm exercising, when I feel the pain in my arm, for those of you who exercise, you feel the pain. When you're feeling the pain, that is when you're building muscle. It doesn't happen like, okay, 2 days later, I build muscle, right? When I'm feeling the pain, that is when I'm getting the tearing down of that old and building up the new. So they are companions of one another, not cause and effect. Something happens now, the other one happens later. But go ahead.
No, I was just wondering that at this point, when those of us who always turned to prayers and always felt more comfort coming to Islamic centers, attending congregations, and a month of Ramadan is also coming, how are you guys preparing and anticipating for that we are not allowed to pray in community or visiting Islamic centers? That is also a big loss to the community right now.
Yeah, no, but this is there is a global reset of affairs. there are some people who are so focused that they think that a prayer is something that happens in the mosque, and that the mosque is a special holy place for prayer, but in my house, not so much. Right? Praying with my family, not such a big deal. Oh, really? Well, now the focus is I should be thinking about praying wherever I am. I should be praying with whomever I'm with. And that for some people, maybe you'll have that feeling that, you know, they're holier than other people because they're in the holy places. They're in Mecca. They're in Medina. Oh, really? Well, now, how holy are you if you're just staying in your 3-bedroom house and you're praying to the one who's in control of everything, who hears you and sees you wherever you are? So now it's a reset. You know, I want to remind you, when the Quran first started coming to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was secluded in a cave by himself for days upon days, just thinking and reflecting. And the Quran came to him. And the narration says that he did this as a seclusion, as a habit, a khulwa. We now are faced as a planet with secluding ourselves in our homes, to having that time to reflect. Probably the world has never had an opportunity like this, to be forced to be with ourselves and to build that relationship with our closest people and with our God. So that's how I see it. And okay, people, you know, I mean, these are things we know. They, in Ramadan, people like to gather every night for Tarawih prayer. But the tradition of the Prophet said he came the first night and started reading, and people came and gathered. And the second night, people said, wow, this is something new. And they came and they gathered him. And the third night they came, and then they said, where is he? He didn't come. He said, I'm not coming because if I came again, you would make an obligation on yourselves. He said, I'm praying at home. And so now in that tradition, Tarawih prayer isn't just something that you do in the mosque. Maybe Imam Siraj Wahid said one time in a speech, he said he called some people's houses graveyard homes because they've turned their house into a place that's not a place of worship. Now we all have to turn our homes, even if we're homeless, into our spaces where we can seclude ourselves and worship and reflect. And I hope I wasn't too long.
No, I mean, I'm sure it has answered many questions, but definitely very informative for me as
It's going to be a different Ramadan for sure. How do you, you know, like, what do you do to break fast? Usually we like to get together and break fast together. For us who live in high-tech world, I'm sure there's going to be some Google Hangout iftars.
Virtual iftars.
And they wait for the adhan, and then everybody breaks their fast while they're watching the screen. For people who have that technology, I'm sure that we will create ways of gathering, because I mean, gatheredness is such an important part of our religious tradition. Touching, handshaking, hugging, kissing, prostrating with your face in the same place other people put their face. The wudu station where people's body fluids are flying across the giant. All those things are off
limits. Right.
People are gonna miss being in those washrooms where there's water everywhere. They complain about it. Now they're gonna say, man, we really.
And the idea of extending help and being supportive to the community doesn't. So that's a good point, that if God is everywhere and you can worship God in any moment, any time, any place, then you can serve the humanity in the same spirit as well.
You know, a lot of times, Doc, where are you from originally?
I'm from Pakistan originally.
Pakistan, right? Now, what I'm finding a lot of times in Ramadan or the holidays, Eid or whatever, people will send their charity back to Pakistan or back to Afghanistan. Well, I have news for you now. Now, people are like, I can't send I need to think about my next door neighbor, because if I don't provide for the poor people near me, they may become angry, riot, and do other things. So people are really thinking consciously, ta'amal miskeen, to feed the needy, first the one who's near us. And so you're finding so many programs. And I think they're programs that Muslims are doing now, they weren't doing before, to feed their hungry neighbor. And so, I mean, it's marvelous to see how the world is overcoming a lot of our barriers to reach out to those who are near us without touching them.
Or touching them virtually and spiritually.
Yes, yes, indeed. It's a different.
Tahara, you are in the hospital setting, and I know for a lot of hospitals, they've actually suspended any kind of visitation for people to visit. And that is definitely a time where people are looking to have that support and family and friends coming through. Have you seen an impact there?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? I know the
Yes.
Jump on in.
Yeah. How do I say this? I don't speak on behalf of my employer. I just have to be clear about that. I'm speaking my own experiences. Just in general with chaplaincy, that's happening a lot across the country where this is being limited because of the COVID-19. And what I want to say is connected to something Imam Johari said earlier. He was talking about this webinar that he was on, and that I think he said 60% of the participants said they felt hopeful. So our role as chaplains is to show up for people, find out what's meaningful and what for, what they would be doing if they weren't here and so forth. So I'd be very curious about that 60% that I'm hopeful, Imam Johari. What are they hopeful for? Because in a hospital setting, sometimes people are just hopeful for less pain. Hopeful that I'll get out of the hospital in time to go to my daughter's wedding or whatever. So I think hope is something that right now, something that we all have, and it's going to look different for everyone.
Oh yeah.
So I was curious when you said people are hopeful, and I was thinking, oh, are they hopeful that this is over in 2 weeks? Are they hopeful that we will survive this? So I was just thinking about all the things that if we serve
perspective.
I want to tell you now, if you start thinking about all the different kind of hopefuls, you're going to have anxiety. What kind of hopeful are they having? Oh my God, maybe they're hopeful.
But the beauty about that anxiety, it's our truth, right?
Yeah.
One thing we teach chaplains is be mindful not to go in a room and put a spiritual Band-Aid on somebody's pain.
Oh no.
I'm not saying you're doing that, but I'm just saying how beautiful are the spaces where we can say, hey, I'm anxious, Imam Johari. Oh gosh, Linda, I'm so scared. I hope,
Well, I think this is an excellent point, Tahara, which is for people who are talking to other people who are anxious, not to try to paper over their anxiety.
Yes.
Oh, you're overreacting. Like, heck, I'm overreacting, right? You know how many people died? And so I'm not overreacting. I don't know, right? You tell me, I hear you.
Right.
I understand what you're saying. I can't say I understand everything you're going through, but I understand what you're saying, and I can that feeling resonates from you. I got that. Rather than to say, and by the way, I got an email from the former ambassador of South Africa to the U.S., Ibrahim Rasool. He said, we got some crazy faith leaders out there telling people, oh, don't worry about it. Everything is in the hands of God. And if you're going to live, you're going to live. And if you're going to die, I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? right? We have to be spiritually grounded enough to say that we are obligated to take precautions. And to the degree that we take precautions and do what we're supposed to do, and we turn the other part over to God, then we're hopeful that whatever comes out of it, God will be satisfied with us. Right? So, but I'm not saying you're going to live. I'm not going to say you're going to die. But this idea that we meet people as in chaplaincy or in our faith work, and as friends and neighbors, right? Not as somebody judging someone else, saying, well, you should look on the bright side. What do you mean?
I also understand what Tahara is saying, because just today I had a patient. She's a young female who has been given 6 months for esophageal carcinoma. And kind of we were planning end of life for activities for her, and we were talking about how she should avail every day, travel and do some meaningful things that she has not been able to do in her life. And then this coronavirus happens. So it becomes very challenging at moments like that to, like you said, put a Band-Aid or say, believe this is better for you, or there is some hopeful ending to it. So yes, it's a very big struggle if you are a physician or are working in hospital settings. It is important piece of their healing and survival or endurance, or getting through every day to bring hope to them. Maybe it's form of spirituality or religion, but it becomes harder. It's a bigger challenge, definitely.
And now it's not just the people who have 6 months to live who have that kind of anxiety. It's people who are living every day, wondering tomorrow if they touch a letter that comes in the mail, is that a death sentence?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we have as a planet, we have never experienced this before.
Sense of vulnerability.
I wonder. Soldiers who are on the field of battle right now, I wonder what they're doing. Are they saying, "Hey, I don't want to go out today and kill people because I don't want to get infected and die. So I think I'm just going to stay in my barracks and eat whatever regular food we have and just practice some peace." I know in China, because the factories are closed, the air is getting cleaner, and the rivers are getting pure. So, I'm not saying it's all rosy, but I mean there are rainbows in after this rain.
Silver linings.
Yeah.
Some of the questions that I've heard from people is just the challenges. I mean, we think about wanting to be around in our communities and wanting to be around our families, but some people are actually struggling with that challenge of having to be with their families. I mean, that's a reality, because that's a new dynamic. That is a new dynamic when you say everyone have to work from home and the children have to stay home as well. And you now have a husband and wife who are now in the same space, trying to get their separate corners to work from home, with the children all being home as well. So,
Linda, this is one of the points I thought about before. I was on a conference call earlier, meeting with some people, and I asked the mom about the son. She said, I haven't seen him in 2 days. They live in the same house. We really need to be able to give everybody, even though we're living in tight quarters sometimes, their own space, because we're not used to being this close to each other all the time. And it may seem strange, especially the parents, saying, where are you? What are you doing? Like, hey, I'm used to being in school like all day without seeing you, right? Now, give me my space. I just want to sit in my corner and read or do whatever I'm doing. So I think you're absolutely right. For those who are blessed to have enough space, or to try to work to create enough space, emotional as well as physical space, while we're all crammed together.
So, Linda, how I'm looking at it is this is a time where I'm seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm.
So on one hand, if the natural goodness is coming out, the natural ugliness is coming out too. We are seeing an increase in rate of domestic violence, a rate increase in divorces, a rate of, even if you have seen a 200% increase in gun sales.
Yeah.
Which is all very concerning as a mental health provider for me, because when you are cooped up, all the problems that you had been avoiding, maybe it can be marital or with your children or your in-laws or extended families that you were living with, there was a space, like we had that space, we could walk away from situations.
Yeah.
And right now you don't have that luxury of walking out of the house. Oh, I'm leaving for job. So the husband leaving for job. And so right now it is a moment that we have to recalibrate. And when I say recalibrate, it's like we have to really establish those boundaries. The gender roles have to be gotten away from the expectation that the wife's responsibility to cook and take care of the kids, where the husband is coming back tired, or there might be wives working and husbands who are helping. So it has to be really reconsidered. But the speed,
Dr. Abbas,
yeah,
I got to tell you, in the reset, there might be some relearning, which is, as I understand the Prophet Muhammad, he used to help with household chores.
right.
Maybe people forgot that. He used to mend his own clothes. Maybe they forgot that.
Mm-hmm.
And that means he probably cooked some food too. So it's now time in that reset that you're talking about for people to really reset what was the real traditions in our faith, and not the ones we made up from our cultures.
Right. And going from that, also one important piece is being cognizant of how this frustration is affecting each one of us.
Mm.
So it can come out in form of irritability, mild anger, but a lot of times it's coming out in aggression, right? And sometimes it comes towards the vulnerable in the house. It can be your children, it can be spouse, wife, or it can be your older parent that you are being disrespectful to. So it is very important right now to be aware of how this is impacting us, how it's impacting our others around us, and to be aware of our anger, frustration, and how we are expressing.
Now, are there some tips that, and I know sometimes this is not a simple thing to just say, okay, what can you do? But are there some things that you can share, either one of you can share, that understanding that this is the reality when I say, this is where we are, folks. This is the reality. We are now a lot of times on lockdown in the house with our family members experiencing the frustration. Is there things that we can do that help us cope with that situation?
Well, you know, I'm since I'm the Imam in the group. So, the Quran itself says that it is a shifa. It is a healing. You know, maybe Christians call it, they call the Bible the good book. Maybe it's time people spend more time in the good book. Because in that, there is a reflection. And, you know, maybe some people don't know, I grew up Christian. And one of the things I used to find unsettling about the Quran, I could say that, right? Unsettling about the Quran is it's Bashirun wa Nadirun. It's a good news and it's a warning. And it oscillates between these two things. You know, so when you sit and you're reading the Quran, you're always getting this good news, bad news, good news, bad news. This comes and then that comes. And for people who are going through things, it's a good reminder that there are good times and bad times, that there's a blessing and there's a punishment, that there's opportunities and then there are challenges. And so for people, I mean, and I'm not saying this in a ritualistic way, but in an introspective way, to spend more time with the Quran. This is the month of Shaban for people to increase their fasting. I discovered that although you might be irritable when you're fasting, you still don't have as much energy as you used to have. So you act out less and you sleep more. So I'm just telling you, on the real, this is a month the Prophet Muhammad, he never fasted more in any other month than the month of Ramadan that he did in this month. For people to think about ways in which they can do something to help someone else. And it's challenging because it's not like the way you used to be able to help people before. What is it that I can do to help in this crisis in the way that I can help? My daughter, two of my daughters are hunkered down at my middle daughter's house, and they started sewing masks.
Yes.
And so my wife said, "Oh, that's great. You guys can sell them." And they were like, "We don't want to sell them. We want to give them away." I'm like, "See, those children are raised right." They wanted to figure out something that they could do. And quite often, I think it's that filling that emptiness that can really help people through times when they feel powerless.
As a mental health provider, I can tell you a few things. So that space, when we talk about the space, it's taken as a lot of time taken as a physical space, but there can also be a mental space to be created. Not all of us are living in big houses. In a house, even if you do not have space to walk away from situation, you always can go. So if you cannot go outside, go inside kind of thing. Create that space, and it will come with self-awareness. It will come with self-discipline. So you have to create that space between so it could be that you are getting frustrated and angry because you might be unemployed right now, or you might be concerned about as a provider or as the main provider in the house that how am I gonna manage it long term? But it can come out as some of an angry comment or hitting a child or getting angry or throwing stuff. So being aware of that emotion, how those emotions affect your feelings and your behavior. That
let me if I may, and I'll ask your professional advice. I have shared with some couples that, especially when these tensions start, first to identify, and I'm not blaming the victim, but triggers that affect the other person that you live with. In other words, whether it's the husband saying something hurtful to the wife, or vice versa, that you be sensitive to the fact that someone is triggering you, or that you are about to trigger someone else.
Right, self-awareness.
And the other is, I had one couple, and the wife said, "Well, when it starts ramping up, I go in the bathroom and close the door." And I said, "Look, let's come up with an agreement that there's a safe space that is not the bathroom, that it's the easy chair by the window.
Right.
When we're having a difficulty, either one of us can go and sit in that chair. And if I sit in that chair, that means the conversation
is done.
What do you think?
Definitely, excellent strategy. It could be a space, identified space. It can be an identified word that, or even some couples, we tell them to use color coding, like, oh, this is getting into this is getting into a serious area. But I also always wanna. So there is always, of course, it takes two to tango, right? But it's important that things don't flow from outside, things flow from inside outside. So I think individually, if we become aware of what our triggers are, how we behave, and then once we identify our patterns, we can identify it in others. And always, another thing is, don't try to have a conversation in the heat of the moment. Things have to be very calm and cool down. Like, you know, when you're raising a kid, they always teach you that you want to train a kid, catch them doing good. So if you want to make a point or want a conversation to go somewhere, you have to both be in a good mood or be in a peaceful place to have a conversation. If things are heating up, the best thing is to detangle.
Right.
We have about, I'm sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
We have about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure those that are on the call have an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to ask.
See, I don't get to talk to the two Imam. So I'm
yes. So do we, Erica, I'll ask for you to, if anyone has any questions, I guess they can signal to Erica. Erica, I'll turn it over and maybe you can just kind of guide the questions. If there's any questions from anyone.
I got a wild question. It came to me directly, right? And it says, if a husband has two wives, how do you handle the issues of social distancing? And I don't know, other than probably people have to, you know, I mean, I don't think it's much different than if my elderly parents lived around the corner and I have an obligation to make sure that they're okay, then I have to go, I visit them, I cook for them, I do whatever, and then I come back to the other house that I live in. I don't think it's really any different, whether, you know, whatever your family makeup is. So that's sort of my comment for the polygyny question.
Erica, do we have any other questions? Or
if anybody has a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand, which is a function inside the webinar. I haven't seen any yet. Okay. So Linda, do you have a question for anybody?
Actually,
to start off the Q&A?
I have something for Linda. Linda, nobody asked you any questions.
I'm the questioner.
You recently went to Mecca a few months ago.
Yes.
Now that, I mean, you got in under the wire. I know Muslims around the world all wishing they could go. How do you feel?
Well, one, I feel extremely blessed that I did get in under the wire. I came back, and the very next week, Umrah was suspended. And so it was definitely right under the wire. And it was interesting to really see. I experienced the beauty of the closeness, that you were really shoulder to shoulder. There was no separation. And it was Muslims from all over the world. And just
with germs from all over the world.
With germs from all over the world. And there was no way to avoid that, because you're in such close proximity. Everyone is praying together. As you mentioned earlier, Imam Johari, your face is hitting the same rug that everyone else's face had hit. So I felt I felt the blessing of being able to be that close, but it also let me, in looking at this pandemic, let me also know that there's a lot of challenges in that closeness. And I hardly,
I tell you, I think it's a miracle that every year, like on Hajj, that we don't have a pandemic outbreak every year. It's Mecca in that way is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy to know that they are always consistent about sanitizing the Kaaba, around the Kaaba, Masjid al-Haram. Always they're cleaning, mopping, and now you can really see how critical that prophylactic cleaning that they were doing is, but at the same time that they're wise enough to shut down this amazing house of worship. And I know many people are really feeling, a man in the Costco told me he's emotionally hurt because, not because he's going, but because the Kaaba is not accessible to a billion of us.
There's one question here. It says the Imam has been clear about what hopes people learn from the experience. What do the other panelists wish people would come away from this experience with?
I think for myself, I can summarize it like in the book War and Peace. It says it was the best of the times and it was the worst of the times. So
This was Tale of Two Cities, but anyway.
Oh, a Tale of Two Cities, sorry. Tale of Two Cities. It was, yes, sorry. Tale of Two Cities. Imam, you got me. But the point I was making is that it's on each one of us. It's gonna be a matter of perspective. It is gonna be, we will have to walk away from the acute mindset of it and think of it in a long term and go back to creating that structure back in our lives, and a choice that we will intentionally have to make it every day, that is it gonna be a good time or a bad time? And we can do that by going beyond our own anxiety, thinking of others, reaching to others, thinking of ways how we continue to do this community work, how we continue to stay in connection with our loved ones and extended families and friends. This can be a good opportunity. In Chinese, the word for crisis is 2 words. So it is crisis and opportunity that goes together. So in every crisis, there is opportunity, and this is our opportunity to find our humanity and to grow in this moment.
I mean,
thank you.
I just want to reiterate while Tahara is getting her thing together. There are still some folks, mosques that are open, and people who are trying to get in the mosque. There's some fundamental principles that I think sometimes people miss, and that is that the reduction of harm is better than the acquisition of benefit. This is a maxim, right? It is better to reduce harm than to get the reward, the khair of worshiping in the mosque. And so it is really, although people can have a right to have a difference of opinion, I actually think in this case, they're just wrong. They're putting themselves. There was a man, a preacher who came to the Gambia from Senegal. He traveled from Bangladesh. When he arrived in the Gambia, he was already sick, died from corona in the Gambia after speaking in a congregational setting. I told somebody, I said, it's not the Islamic rule, but believe me, he should have been stoned to death because he knew he was sick. And he came into an area where there was no corona and infected people. This is not Islam. This is not right. And people who are doing this, I got messages from different parts of the world talking about imams that are not waking up and telling people this. The Prophet ﷺ told us about this. If you're in a plagued area, stay where you are. And if you are not in that area, don't go to where the plague is.
Very good.
Right? And this, I mean, this is not just common sense, it's Islamic sense. And people need to look at what is the better reward. I denied myself going to the mosque, and Allah is going to reward me for all of the blessings of the people that I protected from becoming sick. It's a kind of reverse blessing. I'm not doing something so that Allah will reward me.
Thank you. We're at the 5 o'clock, actually it's 5:01, but this has been a really, really interesting discussion, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get all of you back again. And I want to, before we close, I want to throw out a thought for you to begin to think about, and this may be a topic for one of our next discussions,
Yes,
but to look at the post-traumatic pandemic syndrome. I'll say that again, the post-traumatic pandemic syndrome.
You thinking way ahead, huh? We got a long road to hoe, sister.
And this is where we need to be, is thinking about I started out by saying this is where we are. Right. We also need to think about this is where we will be.
That's right.
And so this is our reality, and thinking about that, I just want to put that thought out there so that we can begin to think about it, and we can come back again. So you see, I gave you some time to think about it. I didn't just throw it on you. So
thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and for our profound conversationalists for joining us today and sharing their thoughts that we hope was helpful for those of you that were on the call. It was certainly helpful for me to hear this discussion.
Thank you.
There's no might and there's no power except God.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Salam.